Hey, it's Bradley Zordreger here in the Banger Hangar. I just drove across Toronto and back, picked up Paul Mazurkiewicz from Cannibal Corpse. We're coming up on 30 years of their debut studio album, Eaten Back to Life, and we're gonna chat about that and some other very key moments in metal. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Eaten Back to Life, debut studio album is turning 30 later this year, 2020. What comes to mind when you think back on that record?
Man, crazy. 30 years. I know, it's unbelievable. You know, we're very fortunate and happy to have had a career this long, you know, to still be here, to be able to talk to you guys and to be on tour. But I know, thinking back, of course, what a special time. I mean, you're a newly formed band. I mean, I guess that's the thing that kind of gets me the most is Cannibal was only formed 8 months prior to actually signing our record deal with Metalblade.
Wow.
You know, so we were just a fresh new band, you know, just trying to find our way basically, and make a demo tape and to get the attention from Metalblade and sign our contracts. 8 months later is just crazy, you know, everything was happening so fast. I remember us recording a few months after that. In the winter, I guess we signed the contracts in July, I believe, of '89, and we're recording, you know, soon after. So I remember it being just a whirlwind of, because everything was happening so fast. Not having enough material to actually have to you know, to complete a full CD's worth of, you know, having the music and having the songs and the time. So we really had to kind of push and you know, get material together to actually, you know, have to finish this record, to do this record. But what an exciting time. I mean, you know, we're from Buffalo, New York. We're going down to Tampa, Florida to work with Scott Burns. You know, here we are filling the vans and driving down there as a band to go record your debut album with, you know, at Morrisound Recording Studios. You know, I mean, it was an electrifying, unbelievable time.
Eaten Back to Life is a little bit more of a thrash-leaning album. It's a bit of a different sound. So to celebrate it might be, you know, it would be a completely different set than what people usually get from Cannibal Corpse. I'm just curious how that sound came together on the Eaten Back to Life one, and then how you developed the sound that would come to define Cannibal Corpse and be largely defining of death metal as a whole.
Yeah, good point, good question. Like I said, the fact that the band was really together a few months, you know, we're finding our way kind of a thing. Cannibal was formed from the demise of two Buffalo bands at that time, Tyrant Sin, which I was in, and, you know, Barnes and Rousset were in, and Alex and Jack Owen were in Beyond Death. So we're both of thrash products, you know, basically, growing up in the early 80s, mid 80s, you know, where bands like Creator and, you know, Sodom and all Dark Angel, all those thrash icons were our influences. Slayer, of course, Metallica. Working with different people then, of course, you're trying to find your way in that way, you know, working with another guitar player, another bass player that have different views, different ideas, you know, different ways of writing and all that. So I look at it as, like I stated earlier, right, we don't even have enough material to go, oh, hey, we have all these songs and we can pick and choose, you know, because we've been a band for maybe years, you know, where I guess if we were, then maybe the debut album would have been something a little different. The way I look at it, right, is we're still trying to find our way. If you listen to the first Cannibal, the only Cannibal Corpse demo, of course, you notice that the vocals weren't death metal, really. You know, they were more of a thrash style. That's how things changed so quickly and how things were just evolving in such a short amount of time. There wasn't really a death metal sound per se to go off of. You had a few bands, of course. You had Death, you know, you had Possessed, which weren't really maybe, you know, death metal, arguably, you know, starting it out. I remember listening to the first Morbid Angel album, just came out prior to us going to record, and that kind of gave us a little bit of a kick in a sense of hearing some more guttural vocals or what have you, and the aggression of that record and that band. I think we got lucky in the sense where you got a sense of the fans, and you look back, we grew with we were growing as well. Our sound was growing as we're recording albums, which is crazy. If we were maybe a band that was on the scene for 5, 6, 7 years, you know, which a lot of bands maybe are or were back then would our debut album been maybe The Bleeding? You know, where then you're going, well, right, we have 40 songs to choose from here, you know? So maybe a lot of those early songs never even saw the light of day, because exactly, we're progressing as songwriters and as musicians and finding our way, you know? So I think it's very special to have an album like Eaten Back to Life and being what it was for that time. That was Cannibal at that time, right? We didn't know anything else. It's a very thrash-oriented album, of course, you know? That's what we were into. There wasn't anything else to go by. I really do think The Bleeding is where we came into our own with feeling like having our signature sound of sorts, you know? So yeah, very, very interesting, and it's very cool of how we went about things and how things worked out for us, I believe.
Awesome. One thing that strikes me a lot at, you know, interviewing bands is they say their first album, they had the whole career of their band to write those songs, and then the other ones they either have to do it on the road or take time off, and they have shorter times. You probably had longer after that to write subsequent albums.
For the most part, right, because we didn't do any touring for Eaten Back to Life, really, you know? I mean, when you look at the time frame of the first, say, 4 albums, we put out 4 albums in such a short amount of time. Because we had the time to do that. The fact that we didn't really tour, we were just able to focus on our honing our style and working on, you know, getting to where we want to be, I guess, you know, as songwriters and as musicians.
Sort of curiosity, you know, not doing a lot of touring, how did Metalblade come across your band? I'm sure this story is out there, but I am unfamiliar with it. I'm curious.
There was a record store in Buffalo called Cavage's. It was a big chain. And there was a guy that was working there, and a guy offered like our help. Hey, I got a little, like, you know, some tie-ins. He's, you know, working, or he owned the record store or whatever. I guess with Metalblade, of all labels, Mike Faley, who's second in command, still there at the label there.
VP, yeah.
Yep, from Buffalo, New York. He's Billy Sheehan's personal manager. Worked, you know, knew the Buffalo scene, knew the guy that was helping us. So when we sent our demos to some various labels, we had a little bit of an in at Metalblade. I think to be able to kind of get through some red tape there, you know, our demo not just get pushed aside. You know, so it got to Brian Slagle, and he really loved the demo. He loved A Skull Full of Maggots, which was our first first song on the demo. And I do remember the story is he heard this title and he heard this song and he was like, oh my God, Cannibal Corpse, A Skull Full of Maggots? Yes, you know, I need this band. But basically that's what it was, you know, because we never got any other offers from any other label that we sent to. So it was Metalblade that came back to us, Brian Slagle liking what he heard, and you know, we're signing our contracts, you know, soon after.
Very forward thinking of the Metalblade guys, you know, wanting that extremity, that disgusting, which wasn't really, like you were saying, a thing.
Right.
Morbid Angel was coming out, you know, like a little bit of like that darkness, but it wasn't like corpses and maggots and shit, and to be like, this is the next thing.
Right, no, very good point there, right, because Brian took a chance, you know, right, he must have felt something, you know, obviously we felt good about what we're doing, of course, you know, we're pushing our music, and it was great to see Brian have that same view to go, wow, this is, you know, I got to sign this band exactly amidst all this, you know, just normal so-called metal that Metalblade would have been known for, and great artists, of course, but right, you know, for him to take that chance was awesome, and we're very grateful, and of course glad that he did, you know.
So earlier you were talking about, you know, coming out of the thrash scene. Before we started this, you were talking a little bit about Metallica being almost too extreme when you heard it.
Yeah.
I'm curious how that came about, and how you grew to love thrash, and then, you know, potentially even Slayer, you know, and a whole another level of extremity in thrash.
Right, yeah. Very fortunate to have grown up in that whole time where everything was changing. You know, the 80s, obviously, look what happened from 1980 to, like, you know, to 83. I mean, oh my God. And then 83 to 86, and then 86 to 89. I mean, unbelievable, the changes in the musical scope, especially in the metal scope, you know. So we're just young kids, exactly. Loving our bands like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, and just the mainstreamy heavy metal that's out, basically, because there's nothing else. And I remember hearing Metallica for the first time, right? And it was like, what is this? I mean, this is beyond anything I've ever heard, of course. And hearing Metal Militia for the first time, it was too extreme for me. Really, I couldn't comprehend it. It was crazy. This is, it's too much. But I wasn't ready, I guess. My mentally wasn't ready. I was still too young, still just forming that path, I guess, of getting into the heavier stuff. It didn't take very long, and then then you got a band like Slayer coming out then right after that, hearing Show No Mercy for the first time, and then it's taking it to like a little bit, pushing the envelope a little more so than, say, Metallica was, But it formed us. It obviously left its mark. It really was forming of what we were to become. We were already into Slayer, and hearing Rain and Blood then for that first time was just like mind-blowing, and it took it to that other level. And I remember going, this is how I want to play drums, But just hearing Lombardo play, hearing those songs, just hearing the aggression, just taking it to a whole nother level of Haunting the Chapel and Hell Awaits. And it was changing. It changed a lot of people, of course. I'm sure so many bands talk about this and how Rain and Blood is, their Bible kind of a thing. But it truly was. It was such a groundbreaking, album. It changed us. It definitely made us want to do this even more so than ever, I think. And I remember hearing it going, this is how I want to play drums. Not that I'm Lombardo by any means. He's my idol and my, really the guy that pushed me to want to play the style in a sense. But just, wow, amazing that, when I heard that, and I was just blown away, and how strong it made you, feel that this is what you need to, what you want to do, how you want to take your musical, career and your direction,
It's funny. You basically just answered like 3 of my questions in one. I was going to ask, how you felt the first time with Slayer. Gone. How important is Slayer to extreme metal? Gone.
Right.
How did Slayer influence the writing and Cannibal Corpse as a whole? Gone. It's you can't understate the impact.
No, you can't. You really can't.
I think one thing that I'm getting, in talking about this, saying even like Metallica, kill 'em all to ride the lightning, similar to the Cannibal Corpse, a little bit punkier, a little bit rough around the edges, and then you're just like this. This is just another level.
Right.
Same with Slayer.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Totally.
Show No Mercy doesn't even feel like the same band as Hell Awaits.
Right. I think we fell along that same pathway in a sense, where those bands probably, they weren't where they should be or where they were gonna go. They're still finding their sound, kind of a thing. Because such different albums, and I think we got lucky for both of those bands, to have a Kill 'Em All and to have a Show No Mercy.
Have it documented.
Right, because maybe a couple years later, how the band's progressed, maybe those songs never seen the light of day because they're probably looking at them going, oh, we got better, you're right, here's our debut album, Hell Awaits, and you never heard Slayer before, which would be amazing, of course, which would be great, but to have the priors, to have the Show No Mercy like that, we're very fortunate, very lucky that we were able to have that.
So you guys got a little bit of a kick in the pants earlier, you're going from thrash, and then you got the Morbid Angel, you got the darker vocals, things are getting darker. What keeps you motivated? We're 32 years, I guess now, 31, 32 years into the career as a whole. It's hard to stay. That's older than I am. I can't even understand it. So what keeps you motivated to keep going, keep it extreme? One thing Cannibal Corpse has always, I think, done is like, you finesse it a little bit. It always seems like a little bit more technical, but never technical death metal. Just a bit nice, like nice touch here, nice touch here. What keeps you going?
Yeah, I think it's just our love of the style of music, our love of, you always look back to your roots, This was your passion so much back when you were a teenager starting out. You lived it, it was your religion, living metal, everything, the posters, the garb, everything, right? And then you want to form a band, because you love it that much, and you want to create, you want to, express yourself. And then we were so lucky to have made it in a sense, because not everybody can do that. And there's a lot of great musicians, a lot of great bands that, why not that band? Why us? So I think we all always looked at it as we don't take it for granted how everything has come together for us. And then we always, I believe, really wanted to always stick true to what we started. We never wanted to let our fans down. We never wanted to let ourselves down, I guess. We always wanted to stay true to what we started. And then just having the ability to be able to still be here, right? To be on a record label that's very supportive, you know, to have the fans that are you know, like amazing. We have some of the best fans really in the world, you know, that are such cult followers, you know. So that keeps you motivated. We want to create, you know, we feel like we're not done. And I think that's apparent, right? When you look at all our albums in Concession, we try to do the best we can on every album. Maybe you hit some songs, you know, you're better than others, whatever. That's kind of for the fans to decide, I guess, and the critics or what have you. But we try to do the best we can, try to write the next best song, and then, you know, that's all you can do. But I look at, say, you know, fast forwarding to, say, now with, say, Red Before Black, our 14th album, and arguably our best album. I mean, you know, the songwriting, you know, I mean, just to me, it's just like, it's taken like a kind of a mix of all things Cannibal, the way I look at it. You know, it's got a good thrash kind of influence. It's got a good death metal. It's got like, it's like take Cannibal from day one to our 13th album and you wrap it together and you get Red Before Black, you know. I haven't been that excited about an album in such a long time, just knowing the songs we came up with, the riffs that we're coming up with. It's in us to, you know, just to create, to keep going. And I'm glad we have that because I think the fans know we're not going through the motions, you know, that we truly love what we do and we're going to give it our best at all times. So life's too short, you know. You only get maybe an opportunity, you know, once in a lifetime to do what we're doing here. So we had to make the most of it.